part, language part, and spelling part. I know in this question there are mistakes in mistake galore. And for the simple reason, I have not changed a single word of the question. The questions which are provided to me in Excel sheet so kindly by the organizers, which has actually, helped me a lot. I have simply, put them tabulated under grouping in this presentation. I have not gone to change correct the spelling mistake, etc. But I would only request as a friend, I treat all of you as my friends. Please be very careful about your language, about your grammar, about your spelling. We are professionals and language is a mother. So therefore, and we have to treat a mother with, utmost love and respect. It has pained me when I have read certain questions, maybe in a hurry on chat box, maybe, but some of the questions there should not have been any mistake at all. I mean, it did not call for. Having said this, let us proceed now. So suo motu extension, yes, it extends the time limitation period. Next. How will the time limit of 70 will be determined in those cases where we operate? I have covered this case. I will not repeat this. Technically, therefore, the amendment of reopening the assessment both actually operate in different areas. We have to go by the GST Act and preserve the records for that period as prescribed. Next, period of limitation shall also be applicable in case of issued after summons. Summons is basically the initiation of the inquiry, as I have explained in a short, and it is a written instrument by which a person whose presence is considered necessary and from whom certain information is sought for, it is a written instrument by which that person is called for before the designated authority to give some evidence. Once that inquiry through someone which is completed, it may or it may not follow the show cause notice. And that show cause notice has to come within the time limit prescribed under 73 or section 74, depending upon whether there is a evasion charges, case for evasion or not. Next. Yes, I agree that the time limit prescribed under 73-74, I have already explained this, needs serious reconsideration, and all the major responsible bodies, industry bodies and professional bodies may have to take up this issue very seriously about this, the time limit, which is just becoming never ending for the department, and thereby becoming the hanging sword on the taxpayers for a long period. Not to speak about the tax professionals themselves, because they themselves are also taxpayers. So it is not only our clients, unfortunately, I am an advocate, so I am under reverse charge. But those who are the chartered accountants and other professionals are also facing this hanging sword of the demand at a later date. Generally, it should not come, but I'm just talking about. One of the recent judgment, yes, this is a period of limitation. It will have an impact. That limitation period will continue. Supreme Court judgment under Article 141 will be binding, and therefore, but this is basically academic. As I said, I explained through my table in the presentation on the show cause notice that how even the normal period of limitation in case of 17-18, the normal period of limitation is yet not over. So this is basically an academic question. Next. Justification and legality of invoking section 74, even if it's matter of interpretation. Generally, the established principle of law is that when a matter involved pertains to the statutory interpretation, then extended period of limitation cannot be justified. Invocation thereof cannot be justified. However, this cannot be a rigid law. It may also depend upon many factors, whether the statutory interpretation and the interpretation which has been put forth and acted upon or not acted, because of that not acted upon by the taxpayer, whether it is a bona fide, whether he could have come to such interpretation, are there any conflicting views on the matter, are there conflicting judgments? There are many factors which may have to be taken into account. One cannot simply go on saying that because it is a statutory interpretation, the extended period can never be invoked. By and large, yes, it cannot be invoked. It should not be. Whether the comparison, demand based on the comparison, I have already clarified this. One of the grounds definitely can be a demand which is based simply sitter on my ITR return or balance sheet can be challenged on that ground also, but not only on that ground. On the ground that this ITR and everything, these are public documents, they were always within the domain of the knowledge of the department. So one can take that ground, but that should not be the only ground on which one should rest. And one should really fight it on all other grounds as are available. Next. Sending email is advisable. This is basically, I don't know the background or the context in which this query has been put, but I will, as I say, that if there is any intimation or information which you want to put on the records of the department, then, and if for any reason department is not willing to take up that, then you have to put it through post and through email also, which is allowed. Supreme Court extending the time limit when the court did not consider the ordinance issued. In my opinion, the ordinance, the taxation laws amendment, by which the time limit has been actually, frozen at 31st December. Earlier it was June, and they have all become nullity because Supreme Court order will prevail upon it. We may see some lot of fireworks in the coming days next year. I mean, in this year, once the things normalize. But Supreme Court order will prevail. Next. Department has right to amend, modify notice on the last day. Why on the last day? Department cannot modify or amend the SOCOS notice by actually creating the new case. I have repeatedly explained that. For a minor errors, fine. For the technical errors, fine. But not to make out a new substantial case, because then the time limit will start from that date only, when the phrase corrigendum or amendment has been made. And then it will have a bearing on the time bar. Honorable Supreme Court order on limitation is only for litigation matter. In my opinion, the Supreme Court order will cover even the refund proceedings and all other cases also. In short, departmental proceedings also, both from the department side and from the taxpayer. One can also refer to which I had referred to in my talk last time, that it is a Andhra Pradesh High Court in Walchand Nagar Industries case. In this case, even on the basis of the first Supreme Court extension order of 23rd March 2020, Andhra Pradesh High Court had applied it to the proceedings under the VAT, Erstwhile Value Added Tax, State VAT Act, and they have said that this extension of limitation period granted by the Supreme Court applies even to the VAT proceedings also before the departmental authorities. In my opinion, this is the correct judgment and the logic applies here also. Whether this will be applicable to department, again, I would say that yes, I cannot have it both the ways. That as a taxpayer, blow hot, blow cold. As a taxpayer, extension period should apply as per Supreme Court, but for the SOCOS notice, it should not. It should not be the correct interpretation. It is a double-edged sword, Supreme Court order. Whether the departmental authorities would act upon the Supreme Court order and issue the SOCOS notice even when otherwise it has already become time barred, it is a matter of debate and dispute, or whether the departmental authority will stick to the time limit already prescribed under the law or as extended by the the government. That remains to be seen. But otherwise, theoretically and principally, even the SOCOS notice can also be issued in light of this Supreme Court order. The also get extended, yes. Walchand Nagar also ratio can apply, though that's a different matter. Okay, there is no practice of assessment under GST. But if one talks about any other aspect where the time limit like provisional assessment or scrutiny assessment, somebody talks about that, fine. Otherwise, normal assessment, there is no practice of assessment at all under GST law, whereby your monthly return will be assessed and you will be given the order of assessment. No. It will give the department even to issue the SOCOS notice of service tax and excise. Next. Basic and additional time period for filing appeal before can one writ be filed? Writ is the only course of action. However, this will also depend upon the facts of the case, how far the writ court will be inclined to entertain and intervene in the matter. But as there is no other alternative, and if the issue and the stakes involved justify it, one can definitely go to the High Court. Whether the extended period of limitation of 5 years can be extended for third-party verification, no. The answer is clear, no. Even in case of the cases where the fraud or willful suppression or willful misstatement of facts In other words, evasion of tax is established very clearly by the department, and those charges are, even if they are upheld, then in that case also, the demand cannot go beyond 5 years. This is a settled law. Even if there is a fraud manifest on the records of the case, and if any, because of that fraud, some tax has not been paid, say service tax or excise, say 7 years back, department cannot go beyond 5 years. This is a settled position of law. Can the adjudication order be passed before the due date of filing annual return? The due date for filing annual return and issue of so cause notice both have nothing to do with. They can pass the order. 74(9) speaks about the passing of the order within the time limit as specified under 74(10). And 74(10) speaks about the time limit relating to the due date for furnishing the annual return. So this is the maximum time limit. It is meant for the so cause notice, not meant for the order, basically 74(10). Next. In many cases, assessing officer writes that the appeal against the case law mentioned could be there and passed. I have already covered with this, but this cannot be ultra virus. One should really understand what is ultra virus. Right? It is in conflict and it is in contradiction, and it is contrary to the scheme of the act or constitution itself. An order can never be ultra virus. It is the provision which can be ultra virus, and this order can be challenged before the authority. And it only shows judicial indiscipline. One can refer to the classic jurisprudence on this case of the Supreme Court in Kamlakshi Finance, the binding nature of the order of the higher authorities. One of the most classic case on this binding nature, how the higher authorities order are binding at the departmental level in all cases. One can always refer to that. This is a case of judicial indiscipline, but it does not become ultra virus. The next is, can the officer finalize order without discussing taxpayers where all detail is submitted at the satisfaction in gave order? Generally, the adjudication order are generally passed without considering the submission only, because they are not under obligation to consider. In a lighter way, I'm saying they are under legal obligation to consider, but they rarely do it. When we talk about without discussing, in other words, this is a very dangerous way to say without discussing. It is one thing to say without granting hearing, and another thing to say that without discussing. If the hearing is granted and apparently you have come out of the office of the adjudicating authority feeling that yes, you have been able to convince him, but still he passes the order. In between hearing and the passing of the order, when you receive the order, there is no further discussion by him. It will not make it invalid. And here I know what is meant by this. So there is nothing like discussing. We have to put our best foot forward at the so cause notice stage only. We have to appear for the hearing, argue the case, and thereafter leave it to him. Anything extra is to be done or not, I am not one to comment on this. Therefore, I will not comment on it. Summary of the order issued under 73 electronic uploaded. Can it be considered? I already covered this. Answer is no. Next. Next. Can Commissioner Appeal take fresh contention and pass adverse appeal order? Again, I have covered this point. No, he cannot go beyond the scope of the so cause notice or adjudication order. If the adjudication order is within the scope of the so cause notice, Commissioner cannot go beyond that. And confirm order of law invoking fraud in mere omissions. What is the recourse available? One just has to pursue the matter. I can only say that. I have also discussed that every so cause notice which one is fighting, one should fight on the presumption that he is going to lose the case at the first stage. That should be the presumption on which one should really rest his defense. This is the presumption on which I have been fighting the cases for 30 years. That I am going to land up in tribunal, if not High Court or Supreme Court. If I get any favorable order at the first or second level, it is a bonus for me. But I have to keep that possibility in mind. Even in those cases also, there can be a review by the department. So it is the first defense which I am taking at the adjudication level, which will decide the fate of the client, and not whether the first order has come against or me or favorable me. So one has to be very careful of this, and one has to go on fighting. Next. So what is the current status of GState? Yes, GState. Yeah, it is in the suspended animation, I am afraid. And whether it will ever come, will be established or not, that is anybody's guess. In my appeal discussion, I have already put in constitutional challenge to the provisions governing the setting up of the GState under GST law. Appellate tribunal are already under challenge and justifiably so. Let us see what happens. And these are all the three authorities. Unfortunately, appellate tribunal, advance authority ruling, to which one should really not go at all ever in the current dispensation, and the third about the anti-profiteering authority. In all these three cases, the constitutional challenges are pending before the High Courts. In absence of GST tribunal, approaching High Court is the only option in the e-way bill order. Yes, but that is only if, I'm sorry, if e-way bill orders where you have not gone for the first appellate authority, then you should go to 107 and not to the High Court, unless the facts of the cases are such that you want immediate relief, stakes involved are high. In that case, one can go to the High Court if the detention and seizure itself is illegal prima facie. So one can go to the High Court. Otherwise, appeal can lie before the first appellate authority. Because of pressure from the department, we have paid tax with interest, 15% penalty under protest. Now we want to go for appeal, ask for the show cause notice, or at least ask for the speaking order if the show cause notice is not forthcoming. Based on the speaking show cause notice, you can again challenge the demand. If the speaking order is given, then you can go to the first appellate authority. If both are not given, then after a couple of reminders, file the refund claim. Next. Whether guidelines on personal hearing issued by CBIC could be ground for file. The guidelines as such cannot be the ground, but if the guidelines are not adhered to, then that could be one of the grounds for filing the appeal. Since GST law has automated process by means only registered person can log in, this issue was also there under Excise Service Tax and Customs, and even now also. If a person who has been say penalized as a co-noticee for having abetted or aided the commission of the offence by another main noticee, it happens under indirect tax is this routine, and that person is not salaried. Suppose the officer of the company, he has been penalized under because of he having aided or because he was instrumental in this. He is not registered. Then in that case, temporary registration will be granted for the purpose of filing of the appeal. It is always granted under Excise Service Tax Customs, and I am sure this will be allowed. This will be granted even under GST also. Next. Taxpayer mistakenly, now we are on appeal. Sorry, we are already on appeal. Taxpayer mistakenly had two GST numbers. I have gone through the entire long winding query. Once the appeal is time barred, and this is a good case, if these are the facts of the real case, then I think there has been a mistake at the earlier, in the first case only. This amount should not have been paid at all. The original migration number. So, but anyway, now the damage is done. In that case, if the appeal is time barred, and because it is under natural justice violation, tribunal is not in existence. Therefore, in any case, one will have to go to the High Court. Next. Appeal can be between B2B only or B2C. I mean, this, frankly speaking, this question is slightly, what would I say, doesn't really make the sense. I would only say there cannot be an appeal between B2B and B2C. The appeal is the reason of the lease between the department and the taxpayer. Lease means dispute which has arisen on any matter between the department and the taxpayer, which has culminated into the issue of the show cause notice by the department. That show cause notice is ultimately adjudicated and the order is passed. Against that order, appeal will lie. So it is always between the revenue department and the taxpayer. The status of the parties per se between them, whether they are B2B transaction or B2C transaction, has nothing to do with the appeal filing. Can an ITC recipient file an appeal for tax charge and borne by him? No. Here, this is a tricky issue. If you go by the ratio of the principal laid down under the allied photographic case, then the answer could be in negative. This is still a boiling issue, and because if the customer has borne the burden of the tax, the section 54, which is patterned on section 11B of Central Excise Act 1944, allows the customer to file the refund. But this judgment, one may have to be very, very carefully evaluated in the facts of the case. Can you explain rectification order? The power to rectify its own order are only vested in the appellate tribunal, neither in the adjudicating authority nor in the first appellate authority. Under section the 113, subsection 3, these powers are vested in the appellate tribunal. And since appellate tribunal is nowhere coming in, nowhere there as of now under GST, I'm not going into too much of detail on this rectification. Suffice to say that once an order is passed by any officer, then he is considered to be the functus officio. He becomes the functus officio. It means he has discharged his function and he is now out of the picture. And to put it very simply, he cannot again revise or rectify his own order. And these powers are rightly not given to the adjudicating authority or the first authority. It is vested only in the appellate tribunal, which are there even under SISTAT today, under the certain circumstances where the SISTAT can rectify their own order so as to remedy some errors or mistakes. These are very, very sparingly and exceptionally only exercised by the SISTAT. Normally, the rectification mistake application are rarely entertained. Next. Next. What is the course of action in case we have not filed within statutory limit of 3 months? Please, previous slide, please. Previous slide, please. Yeah, I think I would like you to be with me. We have not filed within statutory limit of 3 months. Now, here, if the statutory limit of 3 months time limit is expired, there is a further time limit under GST of 3 months, and with condonation for a justifiable cause, explaining that a condonation application can be filed. Can a condon delay of 30 days after expiry of the initial period? Language of section 100. There are two mistakes in this section. The delay condonation period is also 3 months, both for first appellate authority under section 107 and for tribunal under section 112. So it is not 30 days. 3 months for each for filing the appeal. For department, it is 6 months for filing the appeal. Condonation period is 3 months in the first appellate authority and the tribunal for condoning the delay in filing the appeal by the appellate taxpayer. And the condonation period is also 3 months. And it is section 107 and 112 and not section 100. So if this period of 3 months plus 3 months has expired, then the only remedy will be High Court. Can an appellate authority refer back to the case because many times the facts are not properly verified? There are, the contentious issue. These are all in 2 judgments also. Suppose there is a natural justice violation and commissioner appeal feel there is no way he can decide the matter, and he has actually remanded the matter to the first adjudicating authority. And this has actually happened in the Bangalore bench case. There are many cases, PCA Logistic and PCA Sika. There are 2 judgments of the single bench on this. There are many judgments where the department had challenged this remand by the commissioner appeal on the ground that the powers do not exist. Tribunal actually, after going through the facts of the case, after taking into account the Supreme Court judgments in MIL India case, which I had actually explained in my presentation last time on Sunday, tribunal said, no, this remand was justified. Tribunal itself, setting aside the order of commissioner appeal, further again remanded the matter back to the adjudicating authority. But this issue will remain contentious, and there are conflicting decisions on this point. Next. The appeal is filed in March 20, no communication. What should be the period of limitation? If you very carefully see section 1073 and the analog of the similar provision under section 112, but we will not talk about the tribunal. Under 10712, it is mentioned that appellate authority, so far as possible to do so, shall pass the order, and there is a limitation period on that. Now, this so far as possible to do so practically absolves in a way the appellate authority to compulsory pass the order within the specified time limit. Basically, it absolves him. And so far as possible to do, where it is not possible, otherwise it is 1 year. He has to pass the order within 1 year. But if he does not pass the order within 1 year, and then later on, rejects the appeal, one can take the ground, but provided the reasons are forthcoming as to why it was not possible for him to pass the order. Then pre-deposit of 20%, whereas in case of high-pitch cases, the registered person do not have sufficient case. Now, this pre-deposit of 20% is not appealed before tribunal. This is for the, tribunal has not come into existence. So let us talk about the first appellate authority, where this pre-deposit of 20% is required. It is not before tribunal. It is under section 107. And if the person has no money, then one can take the only course of action available will be go to the High Court. High Court in such cases are extremely circumspect and reluctant to intervene unless the facts of that case really justify that this 20% pre-deposit will be too unreasonable and a burden which is not called for. But otherwise, there is no other alternative. Can appeal be rejected on non-submission of certified copy? In my opinion, no. Certification in any case has to be done by the party himself. Certification need not be by the departmental officer. So one should not really get into such type of mistakes. Immediately a certified copy should be filed. But if it is not filed, appeal cannot be rejected on that ground. If the order has been issued electronically, and please also keep in mind that it is only on submission of the certified copy that the final acknowledgement of the appeal will be actually issued and the registration number of the appeal will be communicated. Till that time, it will be provisionally acceptance. This can again create a problem from the time-barred nature of the appeal. If there is too much of delay and certified copy is actually placed on records after much delay and it goes beyond 6 months, 3+3 condonation, there can be a challenge on this ground because the appeal can be considered as a time-barred in view of the current provision. One has to be very careful. If the order has been issued electronically, then also do we require to submit exactly because the law itself says so. So section 107(1) starts with that. An appeal can be filed electronically or otherwise, and then under subsection 2, it requires the filing of the certified copy. So there is no question about this. Next. Whether the summary of the order uploaded can be considered as communication, I have covered this repeatedly. Answer is no. And there is no need, you have to wait for the speaking order, you have to demand for the speaking order and uploading of that order. Without that, appeal cannot be filed. You know that. What in case of time-barred order, only the question is not clear. How can there be the time-barred orders? There can be only, so I'm really slightly at a loss to understand this question, so I will proceed. In case of orders served under 129 or 130 relating to the e-way bill and confiscation, the functionality to file appeal electronically is not available on the GST common portal. Whether can be filed manually, I wouldn't be aware about the technicalities for GSTN. GSTN is a supreme authority under GST, beyond GST Council, beyond Parliament. So I wouldn't really get into that. But if there is any difficulty where statutory remedy of filing appeal is provided, and because of the absence of functionality, if the appeal cannot be filed, for that matter, even any return also cannot be filed, then immediately one should file it manually, clearly pointing out why you are compelled to file the manual appeal or return manual. Next. Without properly verifying the facts of the case, the tribunal passed the order. Have you come across any case? There are quite a few cases where certain grounds, generally tribunal does not pass too much of non-speaking order, but yes, instances are there where certain substantial grounds have not been properly taken by the tribunal, considered, or they have not considered, certain other aspects also. In all these cases, the remedy can lie by way of an appeal to the High Court, and one can file, and High Court in many cases have intervened in such type of cases. And we have sample of appeal or reply with due respect and confidentiality. As you rightly said that income tax appeal habits that start with learned commissioner is now inbuilt in income tax sanskar. You see, there is absolutely no harm in showing the respect to the authority who has passed the order. In fact, I personally also, whenever I file the appeal, I always use the word learned deputy commissioner or learned commissioner has passed this order. The point is this basically that the what grounds income tax sanskar, as I was discussing with you last time with all you participants, that under income tax your thrust is majority measure on the computations which are going by the annexures and may be supported by evidence and judgments. But your appeal memo hardly runs into 1 or 2 or 3 pages. In fact, you are discouraged to file the lengthy appeal. I don't know whether this really will work in case of complicated cases involving the interpretation of law. But in indirect tax, this is not so. We can't have a simpliciter. The learned commissioner has erred in fact and in law in passing the order. The learned commissioner has erred in fact in law in rejecting the submission of the party. The learned commissioner has erred in fact in law in not considering the submission of the party. These are the typical type of appeals which we come across when we are sometimes hearing either sometimes in our office or sometimes in the tribunal, which makes a very, very sorry reading. I'm sorry to say this. So I'm only saying that if as a professional, when dealing with the law and, dealing with an assignment which requires us to get rid of the old habits, sanskars, which have now become burden, and it actually hampers our self-development, you have to get rid of those sanskars. We have to be learners throughout our life. We have to. That's why I have put that ancient Greek poem. This is one of my favorite quotes from Horace, which I have put in the beginning only for that reason, that no man ever reached to excellence in any one art or profession without having passed through the slow and painful process of study and preparation. We have to do that. We have to get rid of. Always remember that conditioned mind, which Gita has really so beautifully, a unique concept. In entire world, on any religion, under any philosophy, this conditioned mind concept has been so beautifully explained. So we have to uncondition our mind. Next. Why appeal against seizure of vehicle during movement lies with the Office of Appellate Authority ever jurisdiction over the place where the appeal was interested. I have never said this. This is probably the common misunderstanding. Appeal will lie with the jurisdictional officer only and not with the authority, particularly where the authority has passed the order, payment is made under the GST registration, and where the of that state where the party is registered, and where the party is not even registered in the state where the vehicle is intercepted. Whether the amount of paid is a pre-deposit or voluntarily, and the case is lost, it will be adjusted first against tax or interest. Again, this will depend upon when there is a demand of tax, obviously it will entail the demand of interest, and in the given case also the penalty. Now the pre-deposit under 107 of say 20% is required to be made of the disputed amount of tax when the entire tax amount is disputed. So obviously it would have been made against the tax only. If the case is lost, this amount will be adjusted only against tax. Suppose there is an appeal which involves only the demand of interest, then it will be adjusted against interest. If it involves only the penalty and tax, there will not be a possibility of interest, but only tax and interest and not penalty, then also it will be adjusted against tax. If it is only penalty, then the pre-deposit will be adjusted against penalty. This is very simple. I am in a lighter vein. It reminds me one of my again favorite glitch, Sherlock Holmes, where Sherlock Holmes used to say, I'm sure all of you will be aware of it, this is elementary, my dear Watson, and this is also elementary. Please explain the payment process, where to pay, whether only paid in case is sufficient or any other form is to be filed. There is no requirement to file any other form as I understand. Incidentally, one can even pay the pre-deposit, make the pre-deposit by debiting in the electronic credit ledger. Also, if that credit is available, it need not be case every time. Any power with the appellate authority for waiver of pre-deposit and stay of demand, why the stay is required? I fail to understand this question. Once the pre-deposit is made as prescribed under law, say under section 107 of 20%, the section fortunately itself now provides that the recovery of the balance amount is deemed to be stayed. So where is the question of bringing the stay from the appellate authority? And waiver also. Next. In absence of tribunal constitution, what action to be taken against order by commissioner appeals? What action, depending upon the facts, one may approach. I mean, this is a, yes, depends upon the order of the fact. As I said, I have explained this in detail. If there is a huge demand of a refund, suppose refund involved, or there is a recurring effect on the classification or entitlement to exemption notification, the appellate authority, first appellate authority has already passed the order against you, and now there is no tribunal, then you can go to the High Court only. If there is a demand, and this demand, even while you have not filed the appeal, but you intend to file the appeal, you do not wish to go to the High Court, but you want to wait for the tribunal, you can surely wait for the tribunal. There is a board circular, if I'm not mistaken, of August 20, where board is very clearly prescribed that till the constitution of the tribunal, the recovery would remain stayed. There will not be any recovery effectively. And as and when the tribunal is settled, established, and the president of the tribunal enters his office and starts functioning, the time limit of 3 months will be computed from that particular period. And if I think if I recollect correctly, this is through the removal of difficulties order. So there is no question. So one need not worry about. If one wants some immediate relief, some urgent relief or the early relief, then the High Court will only be the case. In multiple cases under GST, appeal is filed still manually. Not in all cases order ID is issued for filing appeal online. Again, manual appeal as such is not a bar, but as I said, if the order is not uploaded or not provided to the party, then a manual appeal can be filed. And in the covering letter, these aspects should be very clearly brought out. Any specific cases where cross objection is allowed as a new appeal, where the appeal was not filed. You see, cross objection, as I explained in my talk other day, it is nothing but an appeal by the party or by a side who has otherwise got the favorable order. But on certain point, the order is passed against him, which is otherwise favorable. Say on merit, it is against him, but on time bar, it is in favor. So the demand is actually posted as a time bar demand. He has lost in merit. He has not filed the appeal because he doesn't want to file the appeal since his demand is already held to be time barred and there is no recurring effect. Department comes in appeal against the time barred part of the order. Then the party can then challenge again on the merits, which otherwise he has not challenged. This is the whole purpose. That is why it is known as a cross appeal. And there is no need for the enter judgment. These three judgments which I have cited is basically to highlight that what is the nature, what is this cross objection concept in law only for that purpose. Ahimsa means it has been very clearly stated also, unless the statute wastes the power of filing cross objection, it cannot be presumed also. One cannot file the cross objection. And cross objection are not the reply or the written submission to the appeal filed by the opposite party. Whether facts and grounds, this will actually, there is no rigid formula. Generally, the cross objection would start like being agreed by the order. I am an appellant. I have not filed the appeal against the order which is in my favor on time bar. Now, department has come in appeal on the merits on the time bar. I now want to challenge the order on merits which is gone against me through cross objection. So the order is in my favor on time bar. Still, normally, my first paragraph will start with being agreed by the order passed by the first appellate authority or learned commissioner appeal or learned joint commissioner appeal. These cross objections are being filed by the appellant. I'm actually filing the appeal against my own order, but only on merits and not on the time bar. Next. Department again can still the file written submission. Yes. If suppose you feel that there is no requirement filing for you to cross objection, which is in the nature of cross appeal, department has filed the appeal. You can file the written submissions and contesting the averments made by the department in their appeal parawise. You can do that. There is no harm if it is required. In fact, under System Procedure Rules 1982, there is a specific provision for filing the written submissions or reply against the appeal filed by the other party. And this can be done, but it need not be obligatory or mandatory. You may choose to do this, you may not choose to do this. Restriction of power to condonation only up to 3 months. Recourse is any possibility under Limitation Act. Even if you one bring into the picture Limitation Act, it can only be done before the High Court and not before the lower authority, not before the statutory authority who are bound by the statutory provisions, who cannot go beyond the statutory provision. Can tribunal go beyond statutory period of 1 month and allow appellate in condoning delay? I am really again surprised. We must read, and friends, here, let me make one more observation. In umpteen, we see that there is no habit of reading the bare act and bare rules, which is very much popular amongst the majority of the professionals, particularly the young practitioners. One should never get swayed by the judgments, advance authority rulings, and board circulars. And last among them is what is being discussed on the social media like WhatsApp. They are not your gurus. They will not actually teach you the law. Judgment will not teach you the law. Advance authority ruling for that matter, which is also a judgment, will not teach you the law. Board clarification will not give you the insight in the law. One has to repeatedly read the bare act and bare rules, try to understand the provisions, its impact, its scope, how it should be read in harmonious construction with other provisions, which are the relevant provisions, which is connected with a particular provision you are reading and trying to understand. This is required, and this is required on a constant basis continuously. When you are grappling with an issue, the first thing is to do is leave aside the judgments and everything, and not to put the query on the WhatsApp. Friends, I will appreciate your help. Please don't do this. Never. I mean, I know it's not going to be stopped, but I'm coming across every day, maybe not less than 50, 75, 100 queries on the WhatsApp. What is it? One will know. We have to, where the simple issue could have been solved by the reading the law. One has to read the bare act, interpret, and then go for the further judgment. Judgment will come into play. Facts will decide which judgment will apply. Because judgment is available, we can't create the facts. You cannot create the facts just because you have some very good judgment, which you like very much. Facts will decide the judgment, which judgment will be applicable. So here, it is not 1 month. Tribunal under 112, which has not even come into existence, under section 112, they have got powers of condonation of 3 months. In state excise custom service tax, presently the state has power to condone the delay for unlimited period. And once under suppose tribunal or commissioner appeal under GST, first appellate authority, who has also 3 months to condone the delay. If it goes beyond 3 months, they cannot do anything. Matter will have to be taken up before the High Court. Next. Unilateral order passed under section 62 for March 20, no appeal made till date. Can limitation period is applicable? The only remedy is High Court, I am afraid. Does Commissioner appeal has power to enhance? If you very carefully see section 107(11), and there are two proviso. First proviso deals with the confiscation related enhancement of the penalty and fine. Another regarding the enhancement of the tax liability or the ITC deniable. In both the cases, Commissioner has been inserted, given the powers to enhance, but subject to provision, following the principles of natural justice. This particular provision is definitely the legacy from the VAT regime. Very, very dangerous provision. But anyway, it is a part of the law now. Whether first appellate authority may enhance the demand, I said yes. If the Commissioner appeal has set aside the adverse order and demanded the case, should we file the appeal to state? There is no law that against the remand order, appeal cannot be filed. Under section 35 of the Central Excise Act and under section 85 of the Finance Act, section 128 of the Custom Act, where the Commissioner appeal is also divested of the powers to remand. The provisions are the same. The provisions of 107 are the 107 of CGST Act, where the Commissioner appeal is not empowered to. When I say Commissioner appeal, under GST is this Joint Commissioner appeal or Additional Commissioner appeal. Under Excise Custom Service Tax, it is Commissioner appeals. But the provisions are pari materia. Now in that case, still, if you feel aggrieved by the remand order, one can go to the state Suppose state has remanded the case, one can go to the High Court, but one has to prove why you are agreed by the remand order. What is the harm? What is the prejudice caused to you by this remand order that will have to be proved? Otherwise, a tribunal or the High Court may be reluctant to intervene because there is no prejudice deemed to have been caused by the remand order. Next. All judicial pronouncements discussed were pertaining to erstwhile law. Are they still applicable? They are applicable on all fours. If you very carefully compare the language of 107.11 with the language of erstwhile section 35 or section 120, as I said, section 85, the Commissioner appeals power to either confirming, modifying, or annulling decision of the authority below. However, he shall not refer the case back to the adjudicating authority. These are all pari materia, and therefore the law will apply. Laid down as in MIL case, Supreme Court, as laid down in Umesh Doipode case, Supreme Court, and the rest of the judgment. There is a classic battle which is going on under the erstwhile law on this power to remand will continue to rage even under the GST law. How to remand to the proper officer without a provision in the law? As I said, that in spite of the absence of powers in the Commissioner appeals to remand the case, they have been doing it at least under the excise and customs and service tax in the selected cases. Again, it is a contentious issue. In the absence of tribunal constituted, where the e-way bill appeal go to the first level, it is not because of the absence of tribunal. It is because the e-way, any order passed in connection with the e-way bill or detention or seizure itself is appealable before 107. There is no need to bring the tribunal into picture here. Next. My GST refund application was rejected by Assistant Commissioner. Period of appeal is already over. No statutory remedy is now available. You may have to approach the High Court only. There is no other remedy available. If the order is passed without giving opportunity of personal hearing, then can I go for appeal to remand the case back? Even if you do not go, generally the Commissioner appeal may be inclined to remand, but it is his call whether he wants to decide the case based on the facts and submissions made before him and the facts placed before him, or whether he is likely to remand the case by relying upon Umesh Doipode or any other cases. That again depends upon the Commissioner appeals. I mean, you have to just take your time, but you have to appeal and you have to say that the order is ex specie void and ab initio void because having been passed in the gross violation of the principles of natural justice. Can we file the writ against the order of First Appellate Authority confirming the demand for stay recovery? I already covered this. It is very, very unfortunate why, in spite of the clear provisions of law, where the pre-deposit of the specified amount is prescribed, and having once that payment is made, the balance recovery is already deemed to be stayed. Why should we talk about the stay at all? And then again, after first authority, because tribunal is not there, there is already the board instruction. The appeal can be filed whenever the tribunal is set up. Next. What are the options available in case of time-barred cases for appeal in GST? One need to approach the High Court. And when I say time-barred, it means even the condonation period is also expired. In what time can we file retraction of statement? I already covered this aspect. Can we take additional grounds which was not taken in reply submitted to the appellate authority on or before the personal hearing? You can take, ideally this should be taken during the appeal, but at least at the time or before the personal hearing, it is permissible, but it will all lie at the discretion of the appellate authority whether to allow the additional ground or additional evidence or not. It is his discretion. You may again, if he rejects that, definitely you can go, and on the basis of his rejection, if the appeal itself gets dismissed, you can go to the higher authority and again plead the additional ground, and his rejection of additional ground is justified. That's a different matter. But one has to be very clear about this, about the, and that's why I keep on saying, even though the presumption on which one has to work is that he is going to lose at the case at the so-called notice stage, the first reply, the reply submissions, additional submissions, everything, total, all the ammunition which is available in your armory should be fired at the first stage only. Generally, additional grounds are allowed to be taken if it is a pure question of law and it also does not require any investigation of the fresh facts. Again, a limitation can be raised at any stage of the proceeding. There are some judgments which say that limitation is a mixed question of fact or law, and therefore, if the limitation ground is not taken, it cannot be allowed. But majority judgment's view is that limitation can be taken even later on at the appellate stage. A pure question of law, like whether the process, whether the supply is taxable at all or not, whether the authority has a jurisdiction or not, even though you have participated in the adjudication, these are all the questions which can be again taken at the first stage. In one very interesting case where the demand was raised and it was confirmed at the appellate stage in the tribunal, this is a service tax matter, the party pleaded because in this particular case, the reverse charge mechanism is applicable. If I'm not mistaken, it was a GTA case. Reverse charge mechanism was applicable and the supplier having already paid the tax, I am a buyer, I was required to pay under RCM, but supplier having already paid or the GTA has already paid the case, and therefore I am not required to pay. This ground was allowed to be taken by the tribunal.
Sorry for interruption, sir.
Yes.
It's the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I know that. I'm very much conscious about the time limit.
Yes.
Because I myself also want to wind up by about 7:10, 7:12. So that last 2-3 minutes we can complete the formalities.
Thank you.
Yeah. In many cases, assessing officer writes that appeal against the case law mentioned in written submission could be there. I have covered this aspect. Next. This 50 question I have already covered. Utilize this also I have covered. Next. Now these are the miscellaneous. I have grouped them under miscellaneous. Ocean freight is against the department. Yes, both the Mohit Minerals on GST levy on the ocean freight and Salt Steels Limited, SAL, Salt Steels Private Limited, both are from Gujarat High Court, passed on the same day consecutive orders on service tax. These are binding, though the appeal is before the Supreme Court, and one can follow it. Odisha High Court under First Contract, that is, if I am not mistaken, this is the Safari Retreat case. Yes, I am very clearly of the view that the Safari Retreat ratio applies even otherwise also. The Section 17(5) D and E clauses are subject to serious constitutional challenge. How can we say Section 2C? Sir, if you very carefully read Section 17(2)C, then you will find that the word he used into he used in that section only speaks about the supplier and does not make sense if it is read as a buyer or recipient. You have to read the entire Section 2C from the beginning to end. And when you read it in harmoniously, then only it will make the sense. He is used 3 times in Section 2C. Suppose I say that he shall be in a possession of the tax invoice. It means the person claiming the ITC, which can be only buyer. B, he has received the goods or services. Obviously, this refers to the recipient. Then it says, he subject to the condition that the tax charged in respect of such supply has been actually paid to the government. Now, who will pay the tax? Only the supplier will pay the tax. The buyer is not paying the tax. Then it can be only supplier. And the fourth is, he has furnished the return. Again, this can only, who is required to furnish the return under 39? Who is taking the ITC? It can only be recipient. So A, B, and D refers to the recipient. C refers to the supplier. IPC Act 2016 is superior than GST Act. There are quite a few judgments recently on this point. The answer is yes. Next. Can you explain the per incurium and sub silentio? The phrase which is per incurium is basically very short, I will say. Incidentally, this particular question, I have corrected the spelling mistake of the per incurium and sub silentio because they were very wrongly spelled. Per incurium literally translate means through the lake of air. And in law, it refers to a judgment of a court which has been delivered without taking note of the statutory provision or a precedent, which is binding precedent. For the detailed exposition of per incurium, one of the classic judgment is that of the Supreme Court in the committee of the Dawoodi Bohra community versus State of Maharashtra, 254 ELT 196. And a sub silencio means literally means under silence and is legally used to refer to something that is only implied but not expressly stated. If the terms of the contract between the parties are very express and clear, then the concept of sub silencio also will not apply, as has been held by the Supreme Court. Next. This is again extremely contentious issue, audit by department, Sanjay, it was not utilized. Whether the interest can be demanded if the ITC wrongly taken has not been utilized, and it can be established that I have not utilized the ITC, therefore not caused any loss to the government. This issue had arisen under service tax in the context of Rule 14 of CCR 2004, and in INSWIFT laboratories, while interpreting the word or as a disjointing word, Supreme Court said, because of the use of the word or between the Senvet credit wrongly availed or utilized, interest is payable even if the ITC Senvet credit is not utilized. Later on in 2012, immediately board corrected, amended section Rule 14, which was later on divided into two parts in 2015 from 1/4/2015, making it very clear that no interest levy if the wrongly availed Senvet credit is not utilized. Unfortunately, section 73(1) and 74(1) again uses the word or, ITC wrongly availed or utilized. So the Supreme Court INSWIFT laboratory case is going to haunt us now very, very seriously. However, in Bilforge case, Karnataka High Court has distinguished this judgment, and even very recently, Orissa High Court in one case has also distinguished INSWIFT laboratories case in the context of GST. In my opinion, if it is proved that the ITC wrongly availed is not utilized, interest liability will not arise. 9C, why again department and all? I have said enough on this. I have been continuously against the 9C altogether. I am very clear in my view from the very day that there was nothing like audit under GST, absolutely no audit like GST, and 9C itself was ever unwarranted. And it was good that it, in fact, the annual return in Form 9 also should not be there. Excise law has survived without such annual return for 70 years. Service tax has also survived without annual return for more than 30 years. Why should we have annual return? This is the legacy from the VAT. And it is not helping anybody, not even the tax professionals, though the situation can be otherwise. In case where the issue is related to the classification, whether the differential credit can be passed on to the, if the differential amount of tax is paid where the charges of willful suppression are involved, then that credit cannot be passed on. This is the similar as was available under Rule 9 of the Senvet credit rules, same provision, but otherwise differential credit can be passed on. Next. An answer, yeah, fine. GST law with its ill conceived and poor drafting was never meant or expected to relieve the suffering. So we all continue to suffer. And in a scenario where the tax liability is so reported in 3B, in my opinion, it can be contested that applicability of section 74 can be contested. Next. Principle of revenue neutrality. I mean, this question itself is, as I said, if the department raises the contention as put under the query, then the whole contention is inside out, upside down, and with no middle. Firstly, the law of well settled on this point about the revenue neutrality in the context of RCM. Second, as I said, in my opinion, 16 time limit is not applicable for the ITC availment. Third, even for the forward charge mechanism. Third, even if it is applied, then it is definitely not available for the RCM. And fourth, there cannot be any bar to take the ITC paid under RCM at a later date. Whether payment of penalty is mandatory or one can. Why to bring Income Tax Act? There are enough provisions under the law under GST. Therefore, there is no need to. We can challenge the penalty. Next. I think a couple of, very quickly, instruction of tribunal note giving, the order may become void on this ground and it can be challenged. Penalty cannot be imposed both under 74 and 122. Please refer to section 75 subsection 13. It clearly says no double penalty on the same cause under different provisions. It will be only under 74. CGST, SGST, and I have paid actually, paid and I should have paid IGST. Section 77 consequences will follow. This is an extremely interesting and contentious issue. And I feel there are many cases which are now coming to the fore. This is the right case which should be taken directly to the High Court without subjecting the party to go through the Section 77, pay the IGST again, and take the refund of CGST, SGST. This should not be imposed upon the taxpayer, in my opinion. This should be seriously challenged before the High Court. Fake invoice and reverse, again, I have already said, this is a highly debatable issue because of the InSweep laboratories. Next. The tips for successfully challenging the virus, act, rule, action under GST law being tax and central statute. Even if I provide you the tip, friends, it will be the tip of the iceberg only. So whether it will serve your purpose or not, I would really not say. ITC reverse through DRC, where the same was not appearing, can same be reclaimed? I will just summarize view on this. In my clear opinion, my series is going on in Tax India Online on this aspect about 16 to C, 16 to AA, 2A, 2B, 36.4. I am clearly of the view that ITC cannot be dependent upon something is appearing under 2A or 2B. And on the basis of that, ITC cannot be denied to me at all. So there is no question of reversing only on that basis. 3/2019, which is a real estate related, the notification, almost entire provisions of that different provisions of 3/2019 are unconstitutional in my opinion. And I have dealt with this subject number of times, and including GST Corner, who are actually co-sponsor of this entire conference, have also recently released my PowerPoint presentation on this entire controversy of real estate. Even on my YouTube also, these lectures on real estate are available. After insertion of section 16.2, whether clause AA has not become right now the operational, but once it becomes operational, in my view, subclause AA is not. I'm going to discuss this in my next part in the Tax India Online, and therefore, in my opinion, this clause should not stand the scrutiny of law. Next. What is to be considered for eligible? In my opinion, neither 2A nor 2B, but if at all it is to be considered, then 2A, which is a dynamic return, and not 2B, which is the static return. Blocking of the refund, only on this down 2A, one must challenge this. If appellate remedy is available, challenge before appellate remedy, otherwise go to the High Court. Next. Can department issue notice without processing last refund application? There is no chronology of refund application. Even on the latest application, department can issue the notice if circumstances call for. I've dealt with the 2B filing. Can we request to issue summons on another? The government officer, another revenue officer can be called for the summons in any case only through the cross-examination when the matter is followed by the so-called notice and you are fighting, depending upon the facts of the case. Next. Sale for the month March reflect. Credit can be taken in the month of May, and even if it is denied on March, it cannot be. Important paras, whatever important paras you want to see, you can highlight them. In the last case, this Mohammed Sabir, I have already given my reply, and I think these are the final 2-3 questions. I'll just take it. Next. Proceeding seats are any hearing which is conducted. There are 3 questions on this. You can ask for the proceedings of the hearing. You can put the written request. If it is not given, you can ask. You can raise your objection in writing. Power of attorney is always under ₹100 stamp paper. It has nothing to do with the value of the tax involved. And finally, some officers are always prejudiced against the taxpayers. We have to be firm, polite, courteous, but very, very clear in our arguments. And the last 2 questions. Next. Can the reply to the notice be shared with us? I have already dealt with this aspect. And whether we are supposed to match the entire facts, one should always very, very clearly read the facts of the case, of the judgment you intend to rely upon, read through the judgment, and then only rely upon it. With these, friends, there are about 190 questions altogether. Thank you very much. And I will just end with this, Soli Sorabji, one of the most eminent jurists we have lost recently on 8th of April. And he could not have said it better than what actually I've been always thinking. I often tell young lawyers, if you think you will come here to make money, then you are in the wrong place. Go and do some import-export business or become a builder. That is more lucrative monetarily. Lawyers don't retire. They practice. For that matter, chartered accountants also don't retire. They practice till they die. My only advice to young lawyers is to choose a stream of practice or even profession which interests you to continue till that time. Don't think of just making money out of it. Even I don't even like to use the word opportunities under GST. We are not here for the opportunities. We should not consider GST as a gold mine of opportunities. We have chosen this stream of profession. We have to be faithful, dedicated, and do our utmost in upholding the law, the spirit of law, the spirit of justice, while working for the best of the interest of our client, for the society as a whole, and the money will flow.